For this case study, we're going to look at a commercial sales growth target. We'll simply call it sales growth. And our statement is going to be increase sales revenue over the next quarter. Something that almost every organization is going to be able to relate to this one. Again, we'll leave it fairly simple for the purpose of this demo. We'll go increase total sales revenue over the next quarter. That is our intent. This is going to be a one-time result because it's only over the next quarter, but it's going to be a result due to the increase. Now, if we move to control, let's get a little bit more in depth with this one and go influence sales performance through marketing activity. Marketing activity, lead, let's do lead follow-up, sales conversations. So that's 3 points of control. We're influencing the sales performance through the marketing activity, got lead follow-up and sales conversations. So it's a little bit of a mix there, but we'll go with indirect influence for now. Our mechanism, let's go improve lead generation activity and strengthen the sales process. So that's a general intention there to improve the generation activity and strengthen the sales process. So we've not gone too specific there at the moment, but again, it captures really what we're trying to do overall with the control. And let's look at evidence. Evidence is going to be lead volumes, follow-up activity, and sales team reporting. It's going to be, I suppose that's going to be activity completed here. We've got each of those. Lead volumes is a result of something. The follow-up activity itself is an activity completed, and sales team reporting again is an activity being carried out. So we'll declare activity again for the moment. And then expectation, where we circle back round a little bit and we go, expectation is increase quarterly sales revenue by 20%. Now that's a result, increasing it by 20%. And now we can take this upstream and examine the structure. Okay, so it's coming back as unsupported structurally. We've got 3 tensions identified. We've got the target commits to increasing sales revenue over the next quarter. We've got mechanism and evidence being triggered. The evidence limits what can be demonstrated about whether the mechanism caused the outcome. So those two, there's a misalignment there. We've got control and expectation being triggered. The outcome depends on factors beyond the declared span of control. We've got mechanism and expectation being triggered. A generic mechanism is carrying high structural load relative to the expected outcome. So in the outcome, we've declared 20% increase, but it's saying actually our mechanism is generalized, and therefore how can we actually predict that as a strong outcome? So proceeding implies reliance on the effectiveness of the mechanism, the ability to influence sales performance, and the connection between the mechanism and expected outcome. It's the sort of target that actually many organizations may just run with and go, kind of, look, our target hasn't changed. We're looking for 20% increase. Now go and do it. Kind of, this is actually highlighting to us that we've got some tension in this target itself. Well, what's happening here is that a significant commercial outcome is resting on mechanisms and evidence that remain quite general. So ultimately what we're looking to tighten here is mechanism, evidence, and expectation. Actually, mechanism, evidence, and control, because they're misaligning with the expectations. So those are the three causes that we're looking to tighten a little bit further. Look at the triggered again, same three. So now let's just check the alignment, make sure that's right. The system here is just checking whether the declared structure actually matches the wording being used. It's not strengthening the target at all. It's just making the structure more accurately reflect what we've declared. So here it has raised a declaration. It's saying that mechanism specificity should be specific. Now, I suspect that kind of if we look at this under mechanism, we've got improved lead generation activity and strengthen the sales process. So actually what's happening here is you've got a little bit of an edge case. It's saying that kind of this sounds like it could be activity, but you've declared it as general, and it's one that it kind of that's where some of the tension's coming from. So let's apply the alignment, but we'll look at that a little bit closer afterwards. So what will likely happen here is it may release one of the tensions, but ultimately that tension is still going to exist. So what we've got here is it's now moved it down to 2 structural tensions with that realignment, but we've still got the same 3 showing up. So we've got control, mechanism, triggering that expectation, and actually evidence will still play a part in that. So kind of what we'll do now, and we can see that whilst that's realigned and removed a structural tension, what it's done is it's actually raised a declaration. So we've got a declaration observation now. Mechanism declared as specific, while the mechanism wording remains general or improvement orientated. So that's quite an interesting one, because as I say, it's an edge case. It's kind of almost having friction with itself, going, look, you've declared an activity here, so you've got something that's specific, but not strong enough for me to actually move ahead with this. You want to look at this a bit closer. So there's some general statements in there as well, and that's because we've got actually one of each that we've declared in there. It's not uncommon. And let's go back and edit the structure. In future videos, we may use the AI resolution tool, but for now, I really want to dig into how these structures connect with each other, and so we're going to be doing it manually. So let's pin the 3 that are a concern to us. It's these 3: control, mechanism, and evidence. So our control actually looked fairly strong here, but it's still in direct influence. So let's tighten that up a little bit. Let's get this out and let's change this to control outbound lead follow-up, workflows, sales response times, and conversion activity within the sales process. So we're now able to move that across to direct control, because we're the ones doing this sales response times. We've tightened it a little bit. If ever you need to see what was previously in there, we've got the previous runs that we can pull up on the right hand side here, dig into those a little bit more carefully. But now, the moment, we know what we're working through. So we've done the control and moved that to direct. Now let's have a look at mechanism, because mechanism is the one that it tried to change. That's because we've got activity here, and then we've got actually a very generalized statement as well. So we're going to try and tighten this one a little bit more. So we're going to go introduce defined lead response target, up, structured follow up sequences, and weekly pipeline review processes across the sales, I guess really across the sales team we're looking for there. So we'll leave this as specific, but now we have actually been a little bit more specific. We've just taken this an extra layer, not a lot, but kind of just enough to now go. We've introduced defined lead response targets. So this is something we have to put in place, structured follow-up sequences and weekly pipeline review processes across the sales team. And now it's more interlinked with control here. Control here, we're looking at response times, and we're following those up now here in our mechanism itself. So lastly, let's look at the evidence. So in our evidence down here, let's get rid of this. We go quarterly revenue reports alongside inquiry to sale conversion rates and average response time tracking. Okay, so now we've declared final result there. Each of those is ultimately judged at the end of a period, so is a final outcome. And we'll leave expectation where it is. So now we've tightened those three lenses. Let's take this back upstream and see how it's looking. So now we've moved the target across. We've got a solid structural, no structural tensions being identified. So we've got a solid structural state. We'll just run the alignment to double check that there's a truth in the wording and the declarations that we've made. Okay, here we've got evidence type. Actually, it's the only one that it's wrestling with a little bit. If we look at evidence, quarterly revenue reports alongside inquiry to sale conversion rates and average response time tracking. So what we've got is we've got a little bit of a mix there again of activity being completed and outcome, in the sense that that's when we're looking back to go, actually, this is when the evidence is collated and leads us into a stronger ability to tighten our mechanisms further and improve in order to hit this 20%. So kind of that's understandable that that's being flagged. We can apply the alignment and keep this true to its word. We'll see whether that impacts the final declaration. It doesn't. We're still coming back as solid. So would be very happy now to move through that. It is still a bit of an edge case because it's saying declaration observation. It's ultimately what it's doing is it's not saying that the target isn't strong enough. It's saying that you want to be careful with that declaration. You may want to tighten it further, or you may want to actually understand that edge case exists there and just lower your expectations around that piece. Again, entirely up to you whether you tighten it further and you carry on, or you are happy with that declaration observation existing and actually proceeding with the target. In this case, we're going to mark it as finalized and exit, and we're happy to move forwards with that as a strong target.